Alright guys, how we doing? Welcome back to the channel. Now, as you well know guys, there is a massive Tera leak. The Tera leak 2.0 is happening right now as we speak. There's still loads more details coming out each hour. Accounts like Centro Leaks and the likes are putting out all of this information, screenshots, kind of like confidential files. I always say when there's a leak, it's a shame in terms of content, in terms of understanding where the Pokemon franchise is going in the future. However, it is a really interesting moment to be making content and understanding the future of the franchise, the internal vision at Game Freak. And so we're going to talk today about Pokemon Legends. So just to preface this, I've not played Legends EA yet. There's all sorts of people leaking it, streaming it a few days before it's officially released on YouTube. There's people that got early copies. There's people that have got it on their PCs that are cracking it. I'm not doing that. I don't know anything about ZA in terms of the story, other than what we've seen in trailers, of course, but I don't know anything about the game. So everything I'm going to be talking about in this video, bear in mind, I am not aware of the leaks, the story, the plot, anything that's happening in ZA that we don't know about from trailers. I don't know. Massive spoiler warning, of course, before we turn this to the other screen, so click away if you don't want to be spoiled about the Tera leak, about the future of the Legends series. But it is confirmed, guys, that Legends Galar is in the works. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's the next Legends game after ZA. To give you a little bit more context, Legends 2 was supposed to be Johto. This was confirmed. It was supposed to be coming out in 2024 after the kind of Scarlet and Violet and DLC of Scarlet and Violet lifecycle finished. Then we were supposed to get Legends Johto. That then turned into Kitakami being a part of the DLC, and they abandoned Legends Johto as a concept for 2024. It was supposed to line up with the Johto anniversary, 25th anniversary, but it ended up being ZA, which was focused in Lumio City, which ironically was supposed to be one of the settings of the DLC. So you can see how all of these ideas started as one thing and became another. And that's a very common theme, and we might still see that based on the information we're getting. This is older information, so things might have changed and pivoted. However, what we do know is that Legends Galar is supposed to be the next Legends game, or certainly quite recently, up until quite recently, that was the plan. So this is supposed to be based on Xenoblade Chronicles X, and you guys know where I'm going with this. This makes a lot of sense because Xenoblade Chronicles, we're going to play a little trailer in the background. Sorry, that's my poll. This one. We are going to play this in the background because you guys, if you don't know about the Xenoblade Chronicles series, I've personally not played it, and I just did a little bit of research before this video, just looked at some trailers and kind of tried to get an idea of what this Xenoblade Chronicles series is all about. It seems to be a more sort of like cyberpunk futuristic game, but if I just put this forward a little bit, it's all about these big kind of transformery mecha creatures that are large. They are physically large. And of course, we know that the Galar game, Sword and Shield Generation 8 of Pokemon, is all about Gigantamax and Dynamax. It's about the phenomena in the region where Pokemon become massive and they have these huge appearances in these stadiums, and that is the kind of battle gimmick of Gen 8. So you can see here that Xenoblade Chronicles has a lot of that kind of massive scale creatures stuff going on. And so the Legends Galar concept, it would seem, is this kind of idea that these rogue Gigantamax Pokemon are around the map, just like we get rogue Megas in Legends EA, just like we get kind of like rogue Alpha Pokemon, I suppose, in Legends Arceus, the first ever Legends game. And in this game, it would be, of course, based on the Galar phenomenon, which is the Gigantamax Pokemon, these massive enemies. You can imagine that Eternatus's energy is affecting these wild Pokemon. You've got this kind of rogue Pokemon popping up all over the Galar map, and it's essentially the Darkest Day. The Darkest Day being this event that is spoken about as this legendary thing that happened years and years ago in Pokemon Sword and Shield. And again, it was quelled by Zacian and Zamazenta. So it's this recurring kind of thing that happens again in the modern era in Sword and Shield. So apparently this is actually an image that somebody from Game Freak used to pitch the game. That's crazy, man. That's unbelievable that that's a professional thing. But I think he would have, or he or she would have been able to articulate their point verbally, hopefully. But there's a bunch more tweets that have come from Centro about Legends Galar, and here is a very interesting one, some concept art where we've got a Snorlax chasing a berry, somebody hiding behind a tree. This is classic Legends kind of stuff. You've got a Wobbuffet kind of emerging from, I don't know what this is, a cog in a boulder? I don't know if somebody else has got a better idea of exactly what's going on here. And there's arrows pointing to this and that. I don't really understand what's happening. There's some sort of man-made rock construct within a rock, and this tells you when this game is set. You can see they are literally like wearing freaking robes and like tunics. So this game is set far in the distant past, in the kind of medieval era of Britain, which, as a Galarian myself, there's a fascinating history. Britain obviously is steeped in history from the medieval ages. You think of kind of like Skyrim and all these games where that is kind of the vibe they're going for, this kind of traditional medieval tunic wearing society. And it would have been like, there's so many eras of British history that you can tap into. You've got like Henry VIII and his 7 wives, or 6 wives, sorry. You've got the Tudors, the Victorians. It depends how far back you go, but there's so much history, as with every region on the planet. But obviously I know, because I was taught in school a lot about British history. And so this would be 1,000 years ago, apparently. 1,000 years ago in the Galar region. So you're looking at probably like the Crusades era, which is a kind of touchy war era kind of time period, the Battle of Hastings and all these famous events. This might be something to do with a car cult. I'm not sure. This is concept art. If somebody can decipher this, I can't read Japanese. If somebody knows what's going on here, let me know in the comments, of course. There's a Tinkerton, which is kind of crazy as well. A Paldean Pokemon in Galar 1,000 years ago. Legends Galar screenshots here. So this is actual gameplay, allegedly, of the current build or a recent build of Legends Galar. And you can see the Xenoblade Chronicles vibes. This looks really good. Again, this is supposed to be the game that comes after Pokemon Legends EA, a game which I've not played. And this massive Colossal looks almost bigger than the Dynamax and Gigantamax Pokemon looked and appeared in Sword and Shield, the original Galar game. And you can see the kind of legend style interface here. You can see that, I don't know if she's like on the floor. I think she is just walking on the ground there, but I think it's because of the way this kind of like overlay graphic is presented. But I thought she might be like using some sort of tech to jump around. But of course, this is 1,000 years ago. So you'd imagine the tech, any sort of like mecha tech would be very limited, and it would be more focused around kind of like archaic, more like caveman-y, or I guess medieval tools, and it would be a very historic feeling game, you know? And then we've got the other one where there's no Pokeballs. So you can imagine that there's no Pokeballs whatsoever in this era of the Pokemon world, you know? That was probably an invention that even just like 200 years ago, 150 years ago, which is the setting of Legends Arceus, they had these kind of very almost like primitive apricorn-based Pokeballs with the little firecracker pop thing that happens. Take that back another 850 years. That's so long ago. And it seems like they didn't have modern Pokeball technology. So you see this like kind of herding thing where you've got one human character there, the trainer, and then just a bunch of Starlies, a Clefairy, and a Azumarill, Bidoof, Gardevoir. You've got just a bunch of Pokemon that are almost like being herded to go and attack this. I think this is like a Whirlipede or something, some sort of enemy, some sort of boss character. And this would be really interesting in terms of how it plays out practically when you've got, maybe you're not even restricted to a team of 6. You've just got a bunch of Pokemon that are like your friends, your allies. Maybe you've got 20 of them at once. There's definitely more than 6 on screen right here. And you can just be like, hey guys, go attack the enemy. And maybe that's the whole point. Like you need 20, 30, 40, 50 Pokemon to be able to all attack these giant Gigantamax Pokemon at once in order to take them down successfully. So Centro does explicitly say that Pokemon Legends 3 is Galar. So Legends 3, that would be the direct next Legends game after ZA, and that would be a Galar game. We must bear in mind that the person that runs Centro Leaks, yes, they get their hands on the goods, of course they do, but they do often run, they're very flippant, right? They often run with information that they receive, and they don't filter it, they don't quality check it a lot of the time. They're just like, blah, here it is, you know? And so this specifically being Legends 3, I don't think that Centro Leak saying that necessarily confirms it. And if it really is 3, I would like to see proof that it is 3. Again, I don't read Japanese, so there could be something in this where it does literally say it's the next Legends game. Maybe there's some sort of like release date. I think there is here an idea that L3, which I guess is supposed to be Legends 3, was supposed to come out like way before. Surely that's not right. I don't know what the code name is of Legends Galar, but it might be one of these games. You guys can't fully see it. Let me take it a bit smaller, but it might be one of these games. And so it very well could be the third Legends game. You'd imagine if it's that far in development with the screenshots we've seen, it probably is. But we see some more screenshots here. We've got like some sort of leaked form of Slowking from back in the day that's like a chef, like a Galarian Slowking chef, which looks a bit different than the one that we know, the poison type one. And I think the colors are a bit more reminiscent of the first Legends game of Legends Arceus, right? With the kind of more cell shaded style. You've got the kind of pastel-y clouds and the high contrast kind of execution on how it looks. And it's kind of more than this. Literally could just be from Legends Arceus. Like, that just looks like any old Legends game, you know. Wow, I just seen a comment here that says, here's the full English translation of this text in the image. This is a prototype being developed for as an L3 candidate, a game that uses Pokemon AI and physics for interactive play. It takes place in Galar 1,000 years before Pokeballs existed. So it's not even 1,000 years before now. It's 1,000 years before Pokeballs existed, which means it's 1.2k years before the current day, at least. Players form groups of Pokemon discovered through field research and battle against gigantic Dynamax Pokemon. Players form groups of Pokemon discovered through field research. So you're literally herding Pokemon to go and attack it. It really is that. That's unbelievable. All right, guys, this is Gold from the future here, and there's one screenshot that I seemingly didn't cover when I did this recording session, so I just wanted to touch on it just because it's a really beautiful screenshot. You can see the kind of like light and the sun bursting through the clouds on the left-hand screenshot there, and it's a really beautiful like rusty orange aesthetic, really hyper stylistic. And I think this might be a kind of like apocalyptic, smoggy, darkest day situation. You have a herd or a flock of Wooloo there that seem to be kind of like on your team or helping you with, I don't know if he's solving a puzzle there. There seems to be this kind of like a village or potentially like puzzle area in the distance there where the character seems to be heading towards. You can also see remnants of the bridge from the wild area of Galar in the modern day. But yeah, I think this is definitely like a much more natural landscape, and I think this screenshot, color-wise, tone-wise, style-wise, looks really cool. And then on the right-hand side, you've got the Golem. You see the kind of grass textures more close up, which I would say seem pretty solid. I mean, all of it needs a bit more work. You can really tell from the Golem model that it's that cell-shaded style, but hopefully with a little bit more time in the oven, a little bit more time in the development process, this would be really refined and would essentially look like a 4K version of Galar, but set in the past and during the darkest daytime. The sky is what really impresses me here, but let me know what you think about these two screenshots as well, and I'll hand you back over to the in-video version of Gold. Actually, guys, before I even do that, I've just had a Jimmy Neutron brain blast, right? Because I've had this theory for a long time, and let's focus back on this particular screenshot right here with the Wobbuffet. I've had this idea for a while that I've not really vocalized on YouTube yet, but I have spoken to real-life friends about this, and it's about Eternatus, and specifically how Eternatus's energy affects the size of Pokemon, and how that energy in particular could be linked to the technology of Pokeballs in the Pokemon universe. So one of the age-old questions, one of the things that I thought as a kid when I first discovered the Pokemon franchise, one of the biggest mysteries was how do these Pokemon fit into these tiny little capsules? And if you look at this picture here, it seems to be an early idea from the people that were living 1,000 years ago of perhaps how you use this Eternatus, this Dynamax energy to capture Pokemon, bearing in mind the whole idea here is that you have to herd Pokemon because no Pokeballs exist. So I think this kind of confirms this theory that I've been having. At least that's what I'm thinking right now. So this Wobbuffet thing squeezing out of this rock that's kind of painted towards what will eventually become the color scheme of a Pokeball, I think is literally a primitive medieval first draft of a Pokeball. And these people clearly have access to Eternatus's energy, which affects the size and shrinking and growing of Pokemon. So yeah, I think that's what's going on here. That's my brain blast. I'm going to leave it there and I'm going to elaborate on this theory in another video, but I just wanted to mention it here because whilst editing this video, it just came to me when I was looking back at the screenshot. Let me know what you think about that one as well. And just before we go, guys, I want to show you this, right? This is a scrapped Gmax Nidoking, which I don't know if this means it was scrapped from the new Legends Galar game or if it was previously scrapped from like the archives of Sword and Shield. It doesn't really specify here, but can somebody, like, why would this be the one that's scrapped? Certainly on this art, and things look different when they're fully 3D modeled. From this art, this Pokemon looks like possibly the single best Gigantamax form that there ever has been. I can't think of one better than that. That looks incredible to me. So a real shame that we won't get that if it really is scrapped. What you hope is that it's been slightly tweaked, reimagined. They hopefully put it back out the archives and realize this is a freaking amazing form. I love this. But yeah, that's all we've really seen. I'm going to try and not show you the Legends ZA leaks, guys. I'm sure most of you probably have seen it, but because the game's coming out very, very soon, and there'll be a lot of really specific leaks coming out for that, I'll try and keep that off your screens and off your radars. Let me know what you think about these screenshots and this concept of Pokemon Legends Galar. I think it looks really good. I think it's gone back to the more cel-shaded style. Love the gradient, the color of the sky. Love how the Colossal, the Gigantamax Colossal appears as a enemy here. The scale of things. I love when they create a little bit of like scale perspective, and I just think this game looks really good. I'd love to see some video footage of this because there hasn't been any yet. However, you can imagine that there absolutely will be in the coming days and weeks as more gets deciphered from this massive Tera Leak 2.0 that's happening. Let me know all of your thoughts down below. We've got another video where we're going to cover the massive MMO game that apparently takes place across all of the Japanese regions, and you can go from one end of Japan to the other in a massive multiplayer online game. This is crazy. This leak continues to blow my mind. It's only a little bit late, so that's why my energy might be a little bit down compared to the previous video. But this video will go up probably 24 hours before my Legends ZA playthrough. Make sure you click the subscribe button and the notification bell to check that video out, the episode 1. I'm very excited for it. We're not going to be diving into any ZA spoilers as of this moment. I don't want to find out anything. I'm just going to be playing the game completely blind. It's going to be a really super authentic but fun playthrough of Legends ZA. And I cannot wait. And we've also, as I mentioned, got one more video to cover of reacting to this massive MMO game before we then take all of this context into our future kind of like theory crafting breakdown videos that are a bit more premium. Very excited for all of that, guys. Hit the subscribe button. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Love you, gang.